from the experts. This is the big picture. GM and welcome back to the big picture. I'm Jack Dunham and I'm joined as always by the wonderful Mr. Toumas Bahamas from just across the pond. Toumas, GM to you, sir. How's it going?
GM, I am absolutely pumped for this one. I can't wait for Seraphim.
Me neither. It is going to be a very, very spicy conversation. I think different is the right word here. Different to most of the conversations we've had so far on the big picture, not least of all because prices are actually nuking as we speak. We saw BTC drop from, I think, about 61K earlier this morning down to about $58,000 a pop. So it's not looking good in the charts. But the conversation today is going to be very, very different. I promise you, I think one of the spiciest conversations we've ever had on the show, partly because his official job title is Head of Special Situations at Solana Foundation. Taking risk is his mandate. Now, he spent years building on Ethereum. That's where he and I first met. And he then turned around and declared that Ethereum is, quote unquote, dead and stuck in communism. So definitely not one to hold back. Other spicy comments that he's come out with over the years is that he thinks one single Chinese whale can flip the entire stablecoin market to Solana, which would be crazy to see play out. He is by some distance, I think, the most quotable person we could have put in this chair right now. So we're taking the gloves off today. I apologize for anyone that's offended by anything they hear on this show. I'm very excited to hear his take. Seraphim, welcome to the big picture, sir. Let's cause some problems today. How are you?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm definitely getting fired up for this show.
Welcome.
Great to have you here. Hopefully nobody's getting fired, but I tell you what, we have to start with the elephant in the room because people are very, very confused right now. The fundamentals on the one hand are better than they ever have been, and yet price is absolutely demoralizing. It's Thursday today. BTC just printed a yearly low, I think around $58,000. It's looking like we're in for a whole lot more pain over the weekend. The next coming days, I think it's going to be a bit of a make or break time. So zoom out for me, paint the big picture for us. Where are we as an industry right now?
We're in the shit at the moment, frankly speaking. But that is not necessarily due to activity being down. Actually, activity is looking pretty good. I think what's going on is a global macro situation that we're facing, and there's not much we can do about it. But there's definitely a decoupling between business activity that is looking quite good on certain chains, and the macro situation, which is stocks are very high. No one cares about crypto. Interest rates are high as well. And crypto does not fare well when interest rates are high. There's no debasement trade going on now. No one's printing money. These are usually the conditions necessary for crypto to flourish, and they will return. Just not the case now. But I wouldn't kind of look at that and think crypto's dead just because of that. Actually, it's a price dislocation that we can take advantage of.
Yeah, 100%. And now when I look at the market, obviously, we're pretty Solana focused over here. Solana feels like a beach ball being held underwater. What does it take for us to actually decouple from this? I mean, we've got Ethereum and Bitcoin just looking terrible on the charts. And when I think about those markets, Solana feels completely different from what's going on in those ecosystems. But tell us about how you're thinking about that.
Solana will decouple from crypto once the primary assets that trade on Solana are not crypto related, right? Prediction markets have had crazy valuations. Kalshi is raising at 40 billion. They say that's absolutely nuts, right? But the reason that's the case, and the reason Hyperliquid's outperforming every other coin now, is because it derives revenue from non-crypto assets. And that's what we need to do as an ecosystem. And once we do that, and we're starting to finally do it, that's when there'll be a decoupling from Solana being a crypto thing and just being a ledger that enables decentralized finance across stocks, bonds, commodities, effects, not just crypto.
When is that going to happen?
It started to happen like literally right now. So that's the exciting part. Because when I came on board 4 months ago, it was just chats basically. Let's do something. And that something is basically let's list shit that people actually want to trade and not shit people don't want to trade. Wow. And that kind of started to work out. Where Backpack walked in and said, we can do this SpaceX IPO and listed on the same day of sunrise. And that led to crazy activity. We had $500 million in activity in the spot volume yesterday, which is quite a lot given that it used to be almost zero a few months ago. So this process has begun. We're listing the ecosystems, listing stocks and tokenized assets every day now. So that happened yesterday. The market might catch up later. That's not for me to judge, but eventually it fucking should, because I think we've overtaken crypto assets in terms of trading volume on multiple ways of measuring it.
Yeah, I think that
it's looking exciting, but just to sort of reiterate, people are wondering when is this going to happen? Because we sort of started our conversation talking about price. We talk a lot about fundamentals. We talk a lot about things happening. Things are in motion, but there's fewer and fewer people left in the trenches. I feel there's fewer and fewer people left on crypto Twitter. So if you had to, gun to your head, Seraphim, if I had to sort of really force you to give me a timeline. When does price start catching up with fundamentals? Is it 6 months down the line? Is it 12 months down the line? When?
Well, gun to my head. That's exciting. I like that. Well, I'd say another half a year of, shitty markets. I think it's just global macro. Rates will be high until stocks really puke and the Fed starts looking at lowering interest rates. We're going to be in the shit. So I think that's the reality of it. But once that changes, the ecosystems that have done the work, that tokenize spots, that have perps, that trade stocks and bonds and effects, and not just crypto, these ecosystems will outperform everything else. And after 1010, 98% of crypto projects kind of died. we're going to see even more pruning of that leading up to the absolute bottom. And exactly when everyone's going to give up, that's exactly when it's going to start going up again. And if you've done the work, you'll benefit. If you haven't, you just die.
Well, crossing my fingers that happens sooner rather than later. Sorry, Thomas, I cut you off there. I got a bit excited trying to figure out when the bottom might happen.
No, I was getting excited too. But when you were talking about stocks there, what we just recently saw, I believe yesterday, is we saw stocks volume on Solana being higher than memes. Like, is that something where that number, do you think that number is going to be going up only from here? Or do you think that there's going to be both ecosystems where memes stay along and there's still stocks?
They can coexist, obviously, but I do think stocks will outperform memes in terms of trading volume, because that's the shit people want to trade today.
Yeah.
We have to enable stuff that allows, enable trading into assets people want to trade, and that's stocks at the moment, right? Eventually that will flip. So let's say in 2 weeks' time, stocks crash and people want to trade bonds. I think people probably want to start buying bonds. We should list bonds. We should list whatever's going. If you look at TOT, it's rock bottom. It can easily rally, or 30-year bonds can easily rally like a shit ton, right? So RWA is going to keep outperforming, I think, and it might overtake memes. The whole idea that Solana is a meme chain is going away now. You can start seeing it. You start seeing how the meme chain, the shitty KOLs and all that crap is going away, and we're going into something else. Stocks, bonds, effects, commodities, stuff like that. And that's really exciting. It's a new phase. We didn't get stuck in the past. That's very important to succeed, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think what would be like incredibly interesting to me is if we got some meme stocks on Solana and got like huge rallies, from like Solana base. Do you see anything like that happening?
Yes, I think that's the exciting part. The idea that, in theory, someone could bring, I don't know, penny stocks back for Solana, for example, like the whole Jordan Belfort thing. If someone actually started to list these things and they would go up because of buyers on Solana, that would cause everyone to be like, why don't I not only list my asset on Solana? Why not IPO directly on Solana? Or why not do it in parallel, IPO in TradFi markets, and at the same time IPO on Solana? And actually, we're starting to have conversations like this with serious firms, not just penny stocks, but actual serious firms, not just crypto related, that are like, should we do them at the same time? Perhaps we can tap into crazy trading volume from the rest of the world. If you're in America, an American company, your strategy could be you're listed in the States and on New York Stock Exchange, and at the same time, Solana, which covers the globe. So we're starting to see conversations like this, and I think that's really exciting, right?
Is it too soon to ask which companies these are? Can you leak anything?
I can't tell anything.
Wendy's.
Yeah, but you'll find out soon enough, I think. Just give it 6 months and you start seeing, you'll start seeing things. What we need to prove to the market, to these companies, is that we can sustain crazy volumes from all over the world in the spot department. If we can prove that, you can go to any IPO and be like, any company being like, if you want IPO, look at the volumes we're doing on SpaceX. We've done crazy volumes. We had no support from anyone at SpaceX, obviously, right? But we could do so much more. So we're proving that case now. This is what we're cooking now. The ability to go to companies being like
on this sort of IPO trend, people are also asking whether or not after the SpaceX IPO, maybe there's going to be an Anthropic IPO, and then sort of volumes are slowly going to fizzle out. So I guess they're thinking about this period as IPO season for better or worse. And people are saying, look, it's not necessarily sustainable. You seem to disagree with that.
Oh, there's definitely a bubble, and a lot of these things have got up and down. But even in the bear markets, even in crypto, in the worst bear markets, there's also always assets that outperform. Like, remember Frentech from years ago?
Yes.
The depth of the bear market, that was crazy, right? Like, there's always some IPO that's happening. That's number one. Number two, if stocks really die, again, we can do whatever's counter-cyclical. We can do bonds, right? Certain bonds in emerging markets, not just America, right? Some emerging market bonds can go from this level to this because of duration. And that's another avenue that we can explore. Commodities can start rallying. We could do a bunch of things that are counter-cyclical to stocks to get interested.
Yeah. Okay. So look, stocks on Solana, very exciting. IPO season, very exciting. overall, I think we all three of us agree that the overall trajectory is up and to the right, and we hope that stays. I want to go back to something that you said very soon after you joined the Solana ecosystem. I think a lot of people are dying to understand what made you think this way, right? So you built your career on Ethereum. Obviously, you're working at Lido, at Athena. That's where you and I met at one of the sort of earlier ETC conferences in Paris, back when it was kind of fun, not so fun anymore. But you said something that really stuck with me, and I think a lot of people in the Solana ecosystem as well. You said Ethereum's dead. They're basically stuck in communism. So my question to you is, what exactly do you mean by communism? Because you called it quite early, right? Zooming out, there's clearly a bit of a trend happening there. David Hoffman, as we all know, one of Ethereum's loudest supporters over the years, he ended up selling his entire position. He's, I think, pivoted to a health and fitness influencer or something. But the point is, clearly there's an alignment problem there between the Ethereum Foundation and people that are in the Ethereum ecosystem. What made you think that it's too, quote unquote, communist? And I think the follow-up to that is going to be, and I'll let you know already, what does Solana need to do to avoid dealing with that same issue?
I'll be honest, David selling made me want to buy it again. To be fair. I was like, oh, maybe I should buy now. But I think I remember this from Lido days. Like, Lido is the biggest Ethereum staking protocol, or the biggest DeFi protocol for that matter, in the whole crypto ecosystem, right? And the Ethereum Foundation people really hated us for some reason. They were like, it was just some communist shit. It's like, oh, you guys did something private, like when a state hates when a big company appears out of nowhere and they don't own it. And it was the same vibe. Like it was like the biggest staking protocol on Ethereum, and they really hated us for being successful. And I was like, this doesn't bode well. And then you had a bunch of meetings between Ethereum people and Lido and Athena, and everyone was kind of agreeing, like the business leaders on Ethereum were kind of agreeing internally that they don't really like us for some reason. They don't like DeFi. And we are the core point of this whole chain. So when the foundation is against business, it's kind of like a country being against business. It's just not good. You have to leave. It's like if you live in, what's a good example? I don't know. If you're in California and they want to impose wealth taxes, what do people do? They go into Texas and Florida. And that's exactly what happened here with Ethereum being California and people saying, fuck this. And some people left, like you and me were left, or some projects are looking into leaving. It's the same situation.
Clear. Yeah, so what does Solana need to do to avoid ending up being accused of communism? Now, for anyone listening as well, if you follow Toli's posts, there's almost zero risk of him saying anything that would be, considered actually communist. He makes a lot of sort of political jokes, but as a chain, as an ecosystem, as a network, what does Solana need to do other than supporting the sort of top projects as they currently do?
First of all, Solana should not reject success. Like, if there's success, no matter how weird it is, like when meme coins just got started, if Solana were to say, oh, we're just going to ban transactions related to meme coins, or we don't like them altogether, like that would be really bad. It's about leaning in when you see success, no matter what vertical it is, unless it's really unethical or like illegal, right? Bar that, just leaning into success stories and helping those guys succeed, and not being too thinking that we're better than anyone, right? That's number one. Number two is active support. So Solana is obviously doing the liquidity program. So when teams come to Solana from Ethereum, for example, Athena, we kind of helped out a little bit with the AMM liquidity to enable that. So supporting teams quite actively if it's worth the effort, injecting liquidity every once in a while into separate projects. Helping with connections. Like, this is what Frontier Traders is about, by the way, that we created. This is where we enable traders to get a rebate, to get in touch with other traders. We enable projects to speak to those, heavy hitters on the chain. We do a lot of business development on behalf of projects. And I don't think Ethereum Foundation does any of that. Maybe the second one will do, because they have to now. But like, as long as we've got one Solana Foundation, we'll be doing the BD, a lot of the BD for the projects. I think that's why we're good at this. No other chain does this when you look at it realistically. Like, Ethereum doesn't do anything. Hyperliquid is basically Jeff and Shoku. I don't think Hyper-VM makes too much sense at the moment. It's just us doing something with teams, and we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, 100%. It seems like Sol does kind of celebrate a lot of the like bigger products that are on it, or bigger protocols that are on it. I obviously love that about it. But with all that you just said there, so what does Solana winning look like to you? Like, what's your picture of that?
Well, I mean, Solana winning.
Aside from the price maybe not being where it is currently,
Yeah.
yeah, in your mind, what are the sort of key things that you want to see, and then you're like, okay, this is undeniably, this is what winning looks like.
Solana winning is when you have a lot of trading going on in assets that are not cyclical, or like where there's such a widely diversified area of assets that cancel out throughout cycles in terms of trading revenue. Like if you have equities traded heavily, bonds, crypto, commodities, things that might be counter-cyclical against each other, but on average, the revenue is high and spread across geographies. Like the one thing that is happening on Solana now, which is suboptimal, a lot of the trading activity is happening in America and Europe. We need to shift this to Asia more. We need to be spread out across time zones. And once we spread out the time zones, we spread out the asset classes, and we scale it way beyond crypto, that's success. Exact number, I don't know. I guess NASDAQ on chain, that's the idea, right? But diversification away from just one asset class or two,
Gotcha.
across one time zone, just everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. We got to be worldwide. And speaking of the world, do you have any alpha for us on this world.xyz? It's everywhere. I can't avoid it. What's going on with it?
Yeah, they told me they're going to kill me if I tell people. I think.
Well, we don't want you to get killed. You don't need to leak.
But we want to know.
Well, it's like, think about which asset classes recently in crypto have become big, right? And think about the world. It's not a Michael Jackson song again about polar bears. That's not the case, but it's something. I actually don't know why they picked that name. It makes no sense, to be honest. But I have no fucking idea what was going through their brains. But the point is, it's one of these new asset classes that would be Solana centric.
Is it metals?
No, think about. Fuck it, you'll figure it out soon enough. Right?
Yeah. We will figure it out. Everyone's talking about it. I think it's actually a relatively good name. I think it's so ambiguous. It could be about absolutely anything, right? But new asset class is a good sort of hint. If anyone, any of our listeners has an inclination as to what it might be, do let us know in the comments. We'd love to. We'd love to play the guessing game with you. But yeah, stocks on Solana is obviously the sort of new trend, if you will. It's the zeitgeist. Putting literally everything on chain is what we all came here to do. But where do you see this being in, like, let's say 12 months from now, right? Specific to the idea of stocks on Solana, is it that every single stock on every single stock market everywhere in the world is available on Solana? And if that's going to be the case, a lot of people are wondering when we're going to get Chinese stocks on Solana. More of these sort of interesting stock markets that we don't quite have access to yet. Maybe the Indian stock market. But yeah, what's your end game as far as stocks on Solana goes?
Well, the Asian stocks is, you don't have to wait for 12 months. That's going to happen a lot sooner. We have to compete, obviously, with Trade XYZ and others. They're listing Zipoo and a bunch of other things. We're gonna scale Asian stocks soon enough as well. So that's not going to take 12 months. In 12 months time, what you need is a lot of spot volume, a lot of these stocks being margin collateral and perp exchanges too, so you can do perp basis quite easily without being constrained by margin. You have deep lending pools with these stocks where people actively borrow against these stocks. Quite a lot of OPs are actually quite comfortable lending against stocks. That's the interesting thing, because a lot of the TVL OPs kind of left. That's true. They kind of started to look at TradFi, CFI rather than DeFi, but a lot of them are very comfortable with stocks. Just not many people are borrowing against them. But eventually, as we have more spot volume and people choose Solana as the place to acquire stocks, they're going to be lending them, they're going to be borrowing against them. And that's kind of a throwback to, if you remember back in the day when Ethereum people would kind of borrow against Link and against altcoins. I know how that went, but it doesn't matter. The point is, like, that could come back with stocks and LPs would come back to lend against them. And that would be huge. That would be like a decentralized prime brokerage that you have in TradFi, where you can buy a stock, use it as margin collateral, lend it into Camino or Jupiter Lend. Maybe use that Jupiter Lend, Jupiter Lend, a SpaceX as collateral for perps. You could do anything. Full composability for your stocks. And I think that's kind of the key. That's going to happen hopefully in 12 months.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like there's just like a ton of actual utility that you can actually have with stocks on chain. So I'm really excited about that. We had Hasib on not too long ago, and we were talking to him about RWAs, tokenized stocks. We're like, there's a lot of activity on Solana. I think it's almost $3 billion. And he was like, look, traders want to trade. They want leverage. They want to margin all of these stocks out. So it needs to be perps. What's your take on that? Like, do we need to focus on perps, or is Solana going to continue to dominate spot?
I think Solana dominates spot because we had the infrastructure for it. We're doubling down what we're good at. We had meme coins that enabled a lot of spot transactions. We had AMMs. Now we have prop AMMs, and we're really good at prop AMM stuff. We're like, most of the volume now is going from prop AMMs, and Ethereum's copying us. I sound like Trump when he talks about China's copying us, Ethereum's copying. But they're obviously copying us because prop AMMs are an actual innovation. So we have a strong spot, and that's why we should start with that. But that doesn't mean we cannot outperform with perps. Like, technologically, there's nothing preventing it. Some people say we need MCP and such, but realistically, if you have retail trading, they're not going to care about a few basis points here and there, or about a little bit more latency. When during meme coins, they would pay, and I would pay 20% slippage.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yeah,
we were doing crazy shit, and we did not care. Like, if you have actually a compelling universe of assets, people are going to be trading it. And you don't need to be as competitive as NASDAQ or even Hyperliquid. By the way, on speed, we're actually quite competitive compared to Hyperliquid if you actually talk to traders. What was the question again?
Oh, spot versus perps. Like, is that something that's needed? Because Hasib was like, he railed on us. He was like, it's all perps, it's all traders.
And leverage as well, right?
Yeah.
You're saying you got to give the people what they want, and leverage is sort of part of that. But yeah, we know, as based on what you're saying as well, that Solana is the home of spot. So I guess how do you square that circle?
I think the reason Hasib says that perps will win is because he predominantly talks to sophisticated traders, and when you only speak to them, you kind of get that feeling that they just want leverage, they just want to get price exposure, they would not buy the spot asset. But we're not just serving the super liquid, sophisticated funds, right? The actual margin comes from retail, and a lot of retail just buys assets. They just buy and hold, or if it's a volatile stock, they flip it. I think that's a reality, that if we look beyond just the 50 trading funds that we have in the ecosystem, if we look at the idea that we're going to be spreading out a certain stock to the rest of the world for as long as they got internet connection, that is incredible. They don't necessarily want to speculate, face the risk of ADL, pay funding rates. That's a lot of limitations for someone who just wants to buy a stock. And yeah, I think we have to shift away from just thinking about trading funds and thinking about what does the consumer in the world want. And they do want some spot. Like, they just want to hold it.
100%. Yeah. When I think about it too, it's like Solana's always been the chain where retail has come, right? And when I think about what's better for retail, it's probably not perps and leverage, right? You know, people get wrecked on perps, where they probably want to be holding spot and actually invest in these assets rather than, you know, a quick turnaround. So with that in mind, like, how do we keep appealing to retail? Like, what do you guys do to bring in more retail and foster that relationship?
Yeah, we'll start with something simple. So this frontier trading idea that we had was to give people rewards for trading certain assets. So we had bounties and rewards for trading SpaceX, Micron, SanDisk, etc., and that created lots of activity.
Yeah.
And since that's working out, we'll probably double down on that path on rewards. That's one thing. And then working with all of our wallet partners like Phantom, Solflares, etc., on listing these things very quickly, which they probably don't need our support for that, but they're doing it. So just getting it out there. In terms of retail distribution, of course, there's two schools of thought. One is we let people do the work, the ecosystem do the work. And the second is we approach it like a centralized exchange. We start hiring KOLs. We build our own super app, and we do our Binance and OKX and Bybit are doing. And I think that's an interesting question. That's an interesting question, right? I think we're seeing what the ecosystem can do at the moment, and it's doing a pretty good job so far.
Yeah.
But never say never.
Yeah, 100%. No, I feel like I don't know that much about the Asian market. So I'm based in the US, in California, a little bit of socialism here. But I do want to hear about the Asian market. What is it like? I feel like there's been like crazy bubbles over there. It's like housewives are like trading, like degenning on like the Korean stock market. Like, what is it like over there? And what are you guys doing to break into that market?
So yeah, Asia is an incredible market for trading, as everyone knows. It's been a thing since forever. Like in Japan, rates were negative for a long time. So the famous Japanese housewives phenomenon, they would kind of buy stocks in Turkish lira and South African rand, and that's because I used to trade emerging market effects. That was a sizable force in the market. It's the same with stocks and crypto. If you look at Korea, in my experience, is like a big high school. Everyone wants to be cool and rich, and they move in packs. Like if someone uses a certain kind of skincare, everyone jumps at it and tries it at the same time, pretty much. If everyone likes Bitcoin, they buy Bitcoin at the same time. And the moment the stocks became kind of popular, just everyone plowed into stocks. It works like a crazy hive mind. And for that reason, probably they can genuinely pump anything.
Fantastic.
That's kind of what's happening now with stocks, and it used to happen with crypto. So Korea is like that, in my opinion. It's a very concentrated, very trend-driven market, and you need to be super local there. There's, from my experience, lots of research houses there that you need to talk to. There's a few KOLs that you just need to know on a personal basis. So we're doing some work there with Super Team and such, but that's Korea.
Singapore. Surely, I mean, it attracted you, right? And many builders. I think I know there's quite a few teams building perps from Singapore, among some of the older teams in Solana as well. But yeah, how does your read on Singapore differ from Korea then? Is it significantly more mature, or is it still pretty degen out there as well?
Singapore is different in the way that there's a big concentration of sophisticated trading firms, especially the more established ones. They tend to be more on the market maker, kind of sophisticated taker side. I don't say it's such a crazy retail activity here happening in Singapore. It's rather sophisticated funds. Same as Hong Kong, although Hong Kong, it's very often the same people moving between Hong Kong and Singapore. The reason people started to move a little bit more to Hong Kong now is because of the recent IPOs. They want to be closer to these things, and therefore move back. Very often it happens now, but it goes back and forth, really. I think in terms of retail crowd, definitely Koreans are absolutely out to their minds. And they like a couple of years ago, due to the hyperliquid airdrop, they started to use DeFi more. They used to only trade on Upbit. Now they're trading on decentralized exchanges. So that's changing. And of course, the Chinese, the mainland people. This is a whole heated topic, but obviously they're present. They're everywhere. And DeFi is an incredible way for them to access financial services and trade things they want to trade. Exactly how it works is very complicated, many reasons, but it's a sizable force,
Right. Don't want to get you into trouble talking about Chinese retail consumers, but one thing we do need to talk about, sort of just focusing a little bit more on Solana, is something that Toumas and I are actually massive fans of, Sesto. This, I think, ideas of a sort of a curated asset basket, if you will, just an idea that you can put money into, and someone's picking which assets are in sort of, they're representing that idea, is a genius play. I'm surprised that Sesto hasn't sort of reached this escape velocity, but I do know that you've already launched a basket on Sesto, right? I think you called it Solana Alt Season. We were talking about altcoins there a second ago. So first of all, yeah, is this the future, right? Do you think this sort of curated basket type of assets is going to be interesting to a Southeast Asian crowd? And why hasn't it reached escape velocity yet? Surely it's just such an easy way to say AI stocks, American stocks, defense stocks, and just throw some money at it. Why isn't it quite catching that velocity?
I think maybe it's the question of time, because I quite like the idea of baskets. The problem with baskets back in the day in crypto, you can only trade the mains, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana. Why would I need a basket for that? I could just buy it, right? You need a basket when something happens and you're not quick to react to add something to your basket, right? Like Trump mentions Dell and you're sleeping. You want something to be, we want it to be added to the basket immediately, right? In the programmatic, agentic way. That's where the baskets kind of excel. And the second is, yeah, you're following some KOL and he's pretty good at calling things. He's not, there's different ways of approaching it. There's obviously the vault, which is where someone trades actively and you just follow them. And that's huge on Bybit, on other platforms where people make millions just selling their, where they get copy traded. This is different. I think this is not such a big money maker for the KOL to create a basket because, unless you have huge AUM, but it's a great way to kind of see like someone's thing. I like the idea of creating a basket because I'm like, first, you can have fun with it. It can be theme based. Like I'm going to create one. Actually, I told the Sesta guy, I'm going to create one called Chinese Women Basket because I noticed that like for some reason the best companies in crypto are ran by Chinese women, or at least in the management. So if I could just create a basket, include Solana, by the way, if I could just include these assets and tokens into a basket and track it, that would be pretty fucking sick.
I'm in. Say no more.
Sold.
Women crypto basket.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love those baskets, like the Nancy Pelosi basket. Like it's kind of like, it's almost like a meme in itself. So I love it. Absolutely. I think that they're great. That leads me to believe or leads me to think about DeFi in general. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Are we back? Have we recovered since that brutal month of April? Like, what are your feelings there?
Careful now. We could upset a lot of people with what's about to come out of Seraphim's mouth here. I mean, DeFi safe again?
It needs to be asked, right?
It does, unfortunately.
DeFi,
yeah.
Like, okay, no one serious is touching it yet.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Since they hack, a lot of people left. And they're still plugged into crypto. They understand what's going on. But when the yields are 3-4% and you can get 12, if you structure a senior tranche with some TradFi entity and you have them as a counterparty, you're like, why the fuck would I do that? Right. That's the reality at the moment. But this is crypto. Shit changes quickly, man. Like, Sailor blows up, God forbid, stocks blow up, they start cutting rates, and then Bitcoin goes to 120K and shit goes crazy. Perp funding rate increases to 20% again, borrowing rate increases back again, and people come back. It's very cyclical. It's important not to get fixated. But at the moment, yeah, we're in the shit.
Yeah. I mean, 3%, it's tough to look at lending something out for 3%, but if 30% comes up or those rates get a little bit higher, that gets pretty attractive, right?
3% is it's like we need 15% because we're all poor in the grand scheme, right? Because in Singapore, I've got mates who are like, yeah, my dad, and why do you need 15%? You got $1 billion, you put into 3%. I'm like, I don't have $1 billion fucking dollars, right? And almost no one in crypto is a billionaire. That's the reality, except for a few guys, and they use TradFi rails anyway, right? Yeah. So we're just a poor ecosystem. We don't have that much money. We need 15% to make this work. So we have to wait, I guess.
Yeah. Now, speaking of billionaires, did you work with Kobe at all at Lido?
No, I came in once he just left. He was a bit involved, but not too much.
I was going to say, we need to get him over to Solana side. That would be huge.
That would be fun, I guess. Yeah. I wonder what he thinks about Solana. I'm not sure
He's
if
probably got some spicy takes on how degen the sort of core Solana community is, if I had to guess.
I feel like he was in some meme coins.
he was fucking around trying it out for sure, but
Yeah.
I don't think he has anything bad to say. He probably
Yeah.
thinks he probably agrees we're better than Ethereum at this point for sure in terms of management and stuff.
That's an interesting angle there as well. So we speak a lot about liquidity, right? Billionaires need to come, yes, but one of the things that you've been, I think, quite sort of preoccupied with is increasing the overall TVL on Solana. So people often say, look, Ethereum is dead. Okay, let's accept that wild statement to be even partially true. Then how do we bring that capital over? How do we sort of have a polite version of a vampire attack and bring some of that liquidity that's just not being used in the Ethereum ecosystem, some of that wealth over to Solana where, they can actually use it in DeFi, right? What's the mechanism for that? How do we attract that liquidity from Ethereum?
The only way to really attract a lot of liquidity from Ethereum is to create a Solana native yield source that is very scalable. So when I was in Athena, we did a lot of that. It wasn't on another chain, but the idea was you create a source of yield that is extremely high, can scale into billions, and people plowed into it. It was like went to billions of dollars in TVL because no one offered yield this high and this scalably. And that's what Solana needs to do. At the moment, there's a lot of innovation on RWA side. I don't think there's any other ecosystem with more RWA lending than on Solana. We have OnRay, which is a reinsurance protocol. We have Prime, which is about 10% using home loans and stuff like that. But the issue with a lot of these products is they're not very liquid. Like people want to come in and come out, which is not the case at the moment. So if you really want to attract TVL, first, make sure your lending protocols don't blow up. That's the long game. Because with TVL, it's very hard to move if you're a large OP. Because I've done all this shit. It's very hard to convince anyone to move. Because even if you offer 200 more basis points, it's just not worth it unless I really trust the project. So you just need to make sure you're not getting hacked over a long period of time, over years usually. Wait till someone fucks up and these OPs start wondering, what do we do with this money? And then offer something that has scalably high yields. And we're good in the first part. We're not quite good enough in the second part yet. There's some interesting ideas happening around yields, but we need to do more. We need to come up with a scalable yield project that's native to Solana.
Does that look like I don't know, a Yearn type, back in the OG DeFi days, like a sort of an aggregator, but then I guess you're sort of forced to underwrite a smart contract risk in a way that maybe people are uncomfortable doing. As Thomas mentioned, putting money into something for 3% is just not really that attractive, right? So I'm thinking about yield and how do we aggregate access to yield on Solana in a Solana native way. What does that mechanism actually look like? Is it, I don't know, Sesto type of sort of curated buckets of yield baskets? What's the solution here? Pave the way for us.
I think what took off the last couple of years was custodial solutions where like not everything is in the smart contract. It's very hard to generate yield purely based on smart contracts. There is a lot of yield in TradFi. The problem is it has redemptions and they take 10 days, sometimes a quarter. If someone could come in and underwrite the redemptions at size and provide the 10, 12% you have in the private markets or bond markets and make it much easier to redeem because there's a network of market makers and providers that kind of underwrite the redemption part. That could be potentially quite huge because a lot of people want to access them all over the world. They don't have brokerage accounts. They don't want to get brokerage accounts. And if you have redemptions that are much shorter, like a few days rather than months or weeks, that would be huge. I think something from TradFi with sped up redemptions and wider integrations across centralized exchanges, Robinhoods, anything that kind of is a UI and has users.
I love it. All right, I'm gonna change gears a little bit. So what gets you most excited when you think about Solana? I feel like you come in with like a ton of energy, like you came in like a ball of fire. Like what is getting you so excited about Solana?
It's called Stocks on Solana.
SOS.
Stocks on Solana. SOS. That shit is fucking exciting. Like, because the perp stuff, I mean, it will take off eventually, but I was never like, this is not going to take off right now. I think it's going to take some time because we're not ready yet. But when like this idea came about stocks, spot stocks on Solana trading, I was immediately like, this is a light bulb moment. Of course, the stocks on Solana is a revolution in ways that tokenization works, I think, because the way Backpack did it, it's basically applying the stablecoin model to stocks, where you KYC to mint and to redeem on Backpack, and then you move it to DeFi. You can do whatever you want with it. Same way as a USDT and USDT works. And I think that's huge. That means you don't have to rely on RFQs that other providers have. You can put it into an AMM, you can use it as a quote currency to lending protocols, use it as margin on perp dexes. Suddenly, anyone in the world with an internet connection can acquire blue chip American assets or Chinese or whatever assets, right? And that hasn't been done before. I think the reason this succeeded is because there's liquidity on AMMs, there's composability. So that is like definitely working out well. I'm kind of proud of myself that I knew this was going to work out. This was such an obvious bet. I wish I bought Backpack if I was so fucking smart. I should have done that.
God, me too. Me too. No, but what they did is impressive. Like I'm actually very excited about too. Now I'm gonna flip this one. And what makes you the most angry about Solana?
Angry about Solana.
What would you
There's got to
change
be
about
something that just gets under your skin and you think, look, come on, guys, we can't do this anymore. It's got to be something that annoys you, Seraphim.
it? Is it like shilling a meme coin under every one of your tweets?
They took my badge away. I had a badge, a Solana Foundation badge, and they gave it to me. And then they're like, we kind of got to take it away because
Too
you're kind of
spicy.
crazy. I was like, fuck, all right, whatever. I was kind of mad about that.
All right, totally. Give him the badge back.
I have my badge back. Come on, I'm fucking nice.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, one more question about this. So, all right, so if it was entirely up to you, you had like a magic wand, no committees, no politics or anything, like what would you change right now about Solana?
Wow, that's a great question. What would I do about Solana? Well, I mean, that's just my opinion then. But we are sitting on the big treasury, right? And there's a lot of stocks out there. And the way brokerages work, they often do vampire tax as well. They're like, if you move your stock from this brokerage to my brokerage, I'm going to pay you 2% yield on top of that stock. And that's usually funded from revenue or from cash reserves. We could do that. We could say, move your SpaceX stocks or any stock from Charles Schwab, from Interactive, move them to Backpack, put them on Solana, use them in DeFi, and we're going to, let's say, pay you 1 or 2% additional yield on that worldwide. That would be pretty fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
We could sustain this for a few months and get new users who are like, wow, I can earn 2% yield on my SpaceX. No one else does that. That could be cool. I'm not saying we're doing this. Let's just
That would be massive, actually. I wonder if when we talk to Armani, if we raise that, he's going to think it's a good idea, and we'll take all the credit for it as well.
No. Well, Armani actually, I talked about this with Armani. That was initially his idea, and I was like, this is pretty good. So I started running it with people, and I was like,
we can't pretend it was our idea then.
No, we can't pretend because it was actually his idea. But I did think that was pretty fucking clever, actually. We'll see. I'm not saying we're doing this.
Yeah,
it's like a big move, and obviously there's a lot of threads there. But I think that would be quite cool. Just vampire attack track 5, just throw some yield on top of stocks and have a move to DeFi on Solana.
But specifically, it's around stocks. It seems when we sort of look into your mind about 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, what the winning recipe is going to be, it's going to be stocks on Solana.
Stocks on Solana, bonds on Solana, commodities on Solana. Like stocks are high now, they will eventually crash, and the Fed's going to print, and crypto will go back up, which is great. But what else is going to go back up? Bonds. Bonds will go up again, and you'll see me screaming bonds on Solana, boss. You know, that's the perfect counter to the trade, boss.
So
we're gonna have bonds on Solana.
I mean, I totally agree with you that anything that can be done in the TradFi world should be replicated on Solana, right? That was the original vision, the original mandate. And I know maybe March or something, you sort of said that the mandate you have is increasing the overall TVL to, let's say, about 10 billion. I think that mandate is somewhat expanded with new asset classes coming on as well. And we don't quite know what world.xyz is going to be, but I have a sneaky suspicion that's also part of there. The reality is, again, we're not quite there yet, right? So honestly, how do we get there? Is it more spot assets? Is it more stocks on Solana? Is it smarter yield sources? Is it, I don't know, tokenized commodities, which is vanilla stablecoin, like vampire attacking Ethereum stablecoin, just sheer volume, the size of it, right? They are leading. So I don't know what the answer is, but I suspect you've got your sort of eyes set on one or more than one of these. What's it going to be? What's going to get us to that 10 billion plus?
So we finally have the building blocks to achieve that, because we have that whole workflow with Backpack, Sunrise, we list stocks or bonds or whatever it is. We have a structure. What we need to do now is speed of listing. That's what any exchange that won it because they became quick to list new assets. Zippo was listed by TradeXYZ recently. I've been thinking, everyone knew about Zippo for months that we should list this thing, right? Everyone knew this. It's just we didn't have the infrastructure for it. But now is the time to make it much faster. And then we can compete with TradeXYZ, we can compete with TradFi brokers, just list shit faster is the key. And not only list it faster, but that make sure that when people trade it, there's liquidity in the MMs, in the proper MMs, to actually facilitate those transactions. And I think that's the key. Just list as fast as possible new assets that people want to trade before people want to trade them.
But we have 100%. The infrastructure, is what you're saying.
Now we finally have the infrastructure to do it, because we didn't have that 2 months ago. Now we fucking do. So if we think bonds are going to take off, we can list them tomorrow, let's say. We listed silver and gold recently, but we can keep doing commodities, which also tend to go up in the late cycles as well. So speed.
Yeah. Now, I feel like the worst case scenario is we bring stocks on chain and it's just the top. Like, how do we avoid bringing them on too late? You know, is that just like preemptively listing a lot of stocks and providing liquidity when they're actually running, or like, how do we avoid that?
Well, we have to give people what they want to trade at the moment, but what we can do is we can add assets that are counter-cyclical, which is why I mentioned bonds. We add additional utility to these assets, so you can use it as margin to short perps on the same asset. Like you bring in SpaceX and you use it as collateral to short one day, for example, in Phoenix, SpaceX perps. So create hedging instruments, options. I don't know about you, but I love options. I love the idea that I'm sitting on some spot and I'm like, I think the top is soon. Let's hedge ourselves out. Let's buy some put options, some create hedging opportunities for these guys that have holdings in the spot, on the spot side of things. That's what we need to be doing. Starts with perps, move on to options and other assets that tend to do the opposite.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, what we like to do towards the end of our conversation, Seraphim, is we hit our guests with a bit of a quick fire round. Given that you're sort of head of taking risk in special situations, I'm sure you're not going to hold back anyway. But definitely take the gloves off for these. A few spicy ones in there, but make of them what you will. So Solana perps, you've got Phoenix. Obviously, the winner, if you zoom out, is Hyperliquid. But who's going to win in the long run? Can anything on Solana realistically close a $9 billion gap in open interest?
Yes, it can. Same way no one believed in perp dexes 3 years ago, said this is dog shit, never going to compete with Binance. Now Hyperliquid is. It's a paradigm shift. We can compete. There's nothing on the technical side of things that prevents Solana from winning here. It just needs a team or two teams that know what they're doing, ship fast, and get it done on the execution side. Nothing is preventing us from achieving that. Like nothing.
100%. I'd love to hear that. Are Solana dats dead?
Well, I have catch-ups. They don't seem dead to me, so it's still reply. obviously the landscape shifting. Everything's down.
Yeah.
Like Tom Lee's down. Solana DATs are down. A lot of them are shifting into something else. A lot of them are considering becoming like a Berkshire Hathaway of Solana, where you acquire businesses within the ecosystem to be a more interesting representation of Solana rather than just price. So they have to shift now. They have to pivot into buying high quality businesses on the chain. And I think that's actually probably more value additive than just buying the thing.
Yeah.
Who's gonna blow up first? Is it gonna be Saylor or Tom Lee? You can't get out of this one.
I think the market could puke without them blowing up. What does the blowing up mean in this case?
Capitulation, I suppose. I mean, yeah, Saylor capitulating would probably mean game over for everything. Everything goes to zero. But which one blows up first?
Well, knowing Koreans, like the Korean guy would probably blow up first. They do, every biggest blow up in finance for some reason happened because a lot of Korean guys did too much cocaine. This is very likely to be. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. It may be the case, but equally, I think Saylor blowing up would be much more systemic than Tom Lee. Tom Lee is a guy who told Blast to leave. No one cares about you. Okay, let's just be honest. No one gives a shit about you. But Bitcoin blowing up, Saylor blowing up would genuinely be a bit of a problem, but not existential. In fact, if that ever happens, that could create one of the best dislocations for buying Bitcoin in years. Like if he blows up, God forbid, I'll fucking buy because like it's perfect. It's like when the bank forecloses properties and does a
Great time to buy. Yeah.
I'd be a buyer too. All right. Prediction markets on Solana. Can they compete with Kalshi and Poly market, and will it be Jupiter?
Ooh.
There's a few cooking on Solana. Actually, I quite like Pumpcade. I talked to that team like a week ago, and I was immediately like, oh, wow, this is really impressive. They're fucking smart. They're kind of degen. It reminds me of Pump. I mean, they had beginnings in Pump, as you know. And they just hired this lady. She's a COO, and she used to work at Pump. There's also Jupiter, a few others. I think they will succeed, but they need to do a different spin. They can't be doing exactly what Polymarket and Kalshi are doing. It's crypto. It always happens the same way. There's a meme coin that goes to the moon, and then they just keep repeating it, rinsing it, and it never works out as good as the first one, right? It might be the same case if you just marginally improve the product. What you need is something new. Like you double down on 5-minute markets, for example, right? Or you create probabilities of probabilities. Like there's an outcome, and within that outcome, there's 2 other outcomes, or some other thing that is different. Maybe higher frequency, because polymarket bets settle every few weeks. There's no time for that. Maybe double down on something super short term. They need to come up with something new. But they can. There's teams. If you look at Pumpcade, it's 5-minute market. They're specializing in that thing. Jupiter's interesting, I think, because they aggregate and they kind of add liquidity there on top. So I think that's pretty sick. So there is innovation there, and that mindset is going to make us win eventually, I think.
Things are happening in prediction market land. I'm sure there's going to be some big news coming out in the following weeks as well. I saw you railing on Europeans this morning about not having air conditioning. I know you spent a fair amount of time in Europe, but is Europe dead for crypto as well? Yes or no?
Confidently, yes. Europe is absolutely cooked in when it comes to crypto. Like they're socialist, there's communism land. It's like we're going to track everything, we're going to tax everything. It's fucked. There's no way around it. Like,
where should Europeans working in crypto move to then? I know you've spent time, multiple jurisdictions, but is Singapore the best place to go to? What if people don't want to go and live in that time zone? What's the alternative?
I think if you're in a time of your life like mine, where you want to lock in and not party your tits off every day anymore, like if you are done with that, I think you should come to Singapore. Singapore is absolutely perfect if you want to lock in, get the work done. There's lots of whales, TVL. There's lots of trading firms here. There's lots of builders as well. Otherwise, you should go to New York. I spend months in New York. I can't stand New York because it's too fucking loud. It's just that's my biggest problem. Like, it's just way too loud for me. But I'm autistic a bit. But New York is fantastic for building. Singapore's fantastic, and Hong Kong. Everything beyond that is mostly waste of your time. Probably maybe Lisbon. I heard there's a bunch of people there.
Right. I can definitely tell you Lisbon is great when there's no heat wave, because AC not being a thing is definitely a problem. People are wondering about, is it safe to be in London for Breakpoint? Yes or no? Is London safe?
Look, I've lived in London forever. Like London is the best city in the world. I know people hate it and fish and chips suck and everything. But if you live in a nice area like Mayfair or Chelsea, I know it sounds like a fucking like privileged twat would say,
You're gonna get some shit for saying that, definitely.
Fair enough. But if you live in a real place like Mayfair or Chelsea, there's nothing to worry about. So yeah, don't live in a shithole. Obviously, you don't want to live in Stratford or something. It's gonna be okay.
I'm pumped for it. I can't wait. I think London's gonna be a ton of fun for Breakpoint.
The worst thing that happened to me in London, I was walking. To be fair, that was really weird. It was like 9 a.m. in Chelsea, and some fucking homeless guy started attacking me, and we just kind of locked in and started flying. I was just like kicking with my leg as strong as I could, and he wouldn't budge. He was so high on coke or heroin or something that he just didn't give a shit. I was like, what the fuck? But then my mate kind of intervened, and he just went away. It was kind of weird. That was the only
zombie.
time. It was like a zombie. It was like that was 9 a.m. in Chelsea, which never fucking happens. But that was the only time. You know?
For the record, Breakpoint is going to be held in a much nicer part of London than wherever that happened, I'm sure. Let's get some spicy ones out there for you, Seraphim. Ethereum in one word. How would you describe it?
Communism. It's communism.
I love hearing that. All right, we got to hear. What's your favorite meme coin?
Fuck. I still love. What's it fucking called? I still like Popcat. I fucking love Popcat, man. I mean, I know it died and everything, but I always love. I'm more of a cat person. I don't like dogs, man. It just
great. My favorite for a long time was smoking chicken fish, just because of the sheer absurdity of it. But they're all struggling at the moment. Who is the most overrated person in crypto today? And yes, you can say Tom Lee.
There's another one I shouldn't say probably, but let me think of someone I can pick on. Well, I don't think David Hoffman counts because no one likes him, it seems.
Well, he's also left, I think, right? So
yeah, left, right. Maybe Vitalik.
Ooh.
Like he's brilliant, obviously, but it's just he hasn't changed with times. Obviously, he's achieved a lot of things. I don't want to shit on him. He's brilliant. But a lot of people, like, sometimes you're good at something and then that success follows you, but you don't adapt. And in reality, that doesn't mean that person knows everything, right? You're good at one thing, doesn't mean you're going to be good at the later stage of a company. It happens often to like founders. They come in, they're phenomenal, but years later, you know, a CEO has to come in. Someone else needs to come in and replace them.
Yeah, it's almost like he's too smart for his own good. It's one thing that I've always liked about Solana is like I feel like Toli's a lot more relatable. Which leads me to my next question: is Toli and the Bernie meme coin going to actually fight socialism or no?
You know, I read Toli's tweets and I'm like, this reminds me of my uncle. He posts exactly the same shit, and I'm just about communism.
Like an uncle on Facebook.
I don't know if a meme coin and Toli's rate posting can solve the deep-rooted issues in America regarding socialism, but at least he's trying.
Yeah, yeah. I live in California. I feel like Toli is like one of the few people that's like raging against the socialism. So I'm rooting for him and the Bernie coin to do great.
He's doing God's work.
All right. So is Sol going to hit a new all-time high before, during, or after 2027?
Oh, I can't talk about this shit. They're going to kill me. But it will definitely work out in the end. That's all I can say.
It's going to happen eventually. All right. Who's your favorite shit poster on Solana?
Well, he's not a shit poster per se. But there's this guy. He works in Humidify. His name is Connor. And you know Connor?
Yeah, I think I've seen his posts coming through. The Humidify guys are in general quite spicy on the timeline, actually.
They're fucking hilarious people. I love them. Like, especially Connor. Connor's my man. He's the funniest person in Solana. He doesn't even realize it, maybe, but like, he's an absolutely hilarious guy. And the Humidify guys, they always, there's always arguments on Twitter between teams and such, but I kind of like them because they're opportunistic. They represent Solana in a weird way where they're like, just so money focused, success driven. They don't give a shit about sounding controversial. I think they somewhat embody Solana a little bit. I kind of like them for that.
Yeah, someone else that does that, at least for me, is like Pump Fun. I feel like they've like captured the mind share of the trenches so well, and like fantastic shit posting out of them. What are your thoughts on Pump Fun? Good or bad for Solana?
I think it's good. I mean,
yeah.
I know there's many opinions on this, but I personally recently even defended them because they brought in so many traders and volumes in the last cycle that we're benefiting from today. It would not be wise to kind of discard it and to ignore that fact.
Yeah, they crushed it. Oh, sorry, keep going. I was going to say they crushed it, but
yeah, they totally crushed it. And people say, oh, they dumped $1 billion in Solana. Yeah, it's called revenues. It's called profit. Like, okay, this was not a non-profit organization, was it? Like, it's totally fine. Now,
right.
Is meme coin still a thing as last cycle? No. But a lot of things fizzle out, and they're trying to reinvent themselves, which I think is great. So
I think the final question that we have to ask you, and I know it's difficult, I know you might get into trouble for answering this question, but just put yourself in a hypothetical situation where you're not working for Solana Foundation, where people aren't going to come after you if you answer this question honestly. Again, gun to your head, because I know you like it. You can only make one trade for the next 5 years. What is that trade?
By stretch, 75. Just kidding. Not financial advice. I have no idea about that. But I mean, the easiest is I would buy Bitcoin, which is exactly what I did a few days ago. I would just buy. I think this is the easiest thing you could do. I should not recommend buying Solana for all sorts of reasons. But when you look at global, the easiest thing is just to buy Bitcoin and scale in as it keeps going down. I would actually keep adding. And the moment stocks actually properly puke and they start talking about cutting interest rates, that's just gonna fly. Like, that's just really gonna fly, and we're gonna be doing well. So.
Yeah. I think safe to say, if you've been working in crypto for anything over 5 years, the one single piece of advice that is just true and always useful is DCA into Bitcoin, and you can't really go wrong. Everything else that sort of teeters around financial advice can be very, very ruinous for people. So that's a fair one. Ladies and gents, we are going to be back tomorrow with our weekly recap. That is Friday, 11 a.m. ET. Senior journalist Finn Miller is joining myself, Mr. Toumas Bahamas, and we're going to give you the spicy stories from across the Solana ecosystem. Seraphim, today has been an eye-opening conversation. Thank you for being so bullish. Thank you for being so spicy. We always appreciate it. And hopefully in about 2 to 3 months, we can talk about stocks on Solana hitting new all-time highs. Have you got any final words for us as to where we should look for more updates on stocks on Solana, more headlines coming out either from your account or from the Solana Foundation's account? Where should we be paying attention to in the next week?
If you don't care about Solana, if you don't care about stocks on Solana, unfollow me right now. But if you do, keep watching the bullshit I post, because we're going to have a lot more stocks soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much for making time to chat to us today. I really appreciate it. Toumas, thank you very much to you as well. And to everyone listening, thank you for being here. We will see you same place, 11 a.m. tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks so much.